We found this on the ground. I don't know if anybody lost a little. I'm going to put it on. It's really nice. Oh, here we go. Over here. Here we go. So welcome to the first ever poetry night, fourth Tuesday poetry at Twin Lotus Thai. This is wonderful. Thank you. We've got a great lineup tonight. I want to thank Joe and Kai. They're our hosts. Kai's in the kitchen cooking things up for you, as well as Carrie here, who's managing the staff today. And a couple of points. Bathrooms are down here if you can squeeze by the crowd here. There is a tip jar. It says support the artist over there. And these 5 poets are very accomplished, wonderful poets. They've worked hard for many years. And so we're going to split whatever goes into that little box over there. They do that for the musicians, and we thought we should do that for the poets too. So anything that goes in that jar will go to the poets. Open mic. I've got a list here. I've got about a dozen. I need to add one name. So that's going to be really great. So after our 5 feature readers, does the sound okay? Too loud or about right? Okay. Oh, and I'm Bob Stanley. If you don't know me, you do now. You're stuck with me for a couple hours. This is really a treat. This is a treat to see so many people out supporting poetry tonight. The other thing is we have books for sale. A couple of the poets, Kathleen Lynch, who's reading first, Tom Meschery, who's reading fourth, and Kathryn Hohlwein. They have some of their books here, so please you can support them in that way. Joyce will be after the reading, probably after the open mic and everything. You can buy books, and that is here as well. So, Reiner? Yes.
My books are only $10.
Your books are
only 10.
Okay. Kathleen's books are only 10. They're really good. Her work is really great. So I'm gonna introduce poets because we're already behind schedule. We're on poet time. So our first reader is Kathleen Lynch. She's one of the first poets I met here in Sacramento. I remember going to a reading at Barnes & Noble, probably in the 1990s, and it was the last. I went there. I was like, wow, this is so cool. And then she said, and this is the last time I'll be hosting. And I was like, oh, bummer. But anyway, I got to know her, and I've read her books. She's a very, very fine poet. Kathleen won the Black Zinnia Press National Poetry Award for her first book, which is called Hinge. Her chapbooks include How to Build an Owl, No Spring Chicken, Alterations of Rising, and Kathleen Lynch, Greatest Hits.
I didn't title it.
And then the new book is Lucky Witness, which came out in 2019, and I recommend that as well. Kathleen won the 2019 Janasco Flash Fiction Award. She won first prize for another, and she's won Pushcart Prize, and we're very honored to have her tonight. Please welcome Kathleen Lynch.
And I'll go right in front of my.
You come around here. You got this music stand or not? Okay.
Can I see everybody?
We can have this coming from the side too.
Oh, that's good.
There we go. Like that. And there you go. Try to look around because you got people behind you and in front. You get close. close. Okay, that should pick you up. It'll be loud.
Do you mind if I move this just a little bit?
So, everybody, hello. I'm happy to see you. I'd like to.
You have to just kind of grab it by the throat.
I'm going to grab you by the throat. I was just told that by Bob Stanley, and he's the boss, so I'm going to grab you by the throat. Hopefully the ears too. I am just learning how to move in my own wheelchair, so I'm not dead yet. I'm very grateful to Bob Stanley and Joyce South for this event, and I think we're all going to love coming here. I already know that they have music here, and now they're going to have poetry, and that's a brilliant thing. So I thought it's going to be hard to read. Tell me if I need to move this. Is this still working?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay. Okay, Ann, do you see it? Okay. Okay, good. All right. I'm effed up, so physically. Well, some might say mentally too. I am going to read poems about going to restaurants or eating in restaurants. I thought, why not? This is a good place, and we're going to enjoy coming here again. So I will start with the poem, Why I Love Oysters. They're three-chambered hearts. They're colorless, translucent blood. I love that they are true hermaphrodites, tiny gonads surrounding digestive organs like a ring of peeled grapelets, apt to change sex in one or more times during an oceanic life. Thus, I am able to take both male and female into my body whole, knowing as they slide into me, I eat the many possibilities of sex, and it tastes like ocean and body juices, and I feel like a true, pure beast on the earth. Bring them to me, alive, sapid in their nacre cups, a swim in their liquor, with perhaps a dash of mignonette, their throb bodies still humming. When I tilt one in, life and death will exist in my mouth together, as they will when I inhale my last unimaginable breath. I know we've all been kind of out of things with COVID and all the changes in our lives and our aging. Many of us are, well, all of us are aging. Hello? But I really am pleased to be reading with Kathryn Hohlwein, Victoria Dalkey, Mary Zeppa, and Bob Meschery, who I just met, but I have read his work, and it's exciting to be turning 80 and still meeting new poets that you like. So, Jay telling you, this is a poem I've dedicated to Morris Graves. Does anyone here know his work?
Yes.
Okay. Oh yeah, you do, of course. He was a Northwest poet, also a painter, and he had to choose what he was going to do with his life. Should he have a family, have children, all of that stuff? He had to decide. Or should he dedicate himself to his art? So he really felt divided in making a choice. And this is the poem I wrote, The Spirit of Things, after Morris Graves. I never had children of my own, but to show how much I would love them, I carried 4 stones from the riverbank. I chose round, smooth ones, each still warm and heavy enough to lift with both hands. I placed them gently in a baby carriage and pushed them to town, took them to a grand restaurant. I set each rock on an empty chair at the circular table and sat with them, ordered food for all of us. I ate my meal very slowly. They did not touch what was laid before them. The waiter asked, was everything all right? Yes, I said. They are not hungry, and I understand that I must pay for everything. Save your lovely hands. You don't have to clap for the poems. I love having a chance to read poems again. I've been sick for a long time. I'm not going to tell you about it. It's too boring. But I'm not dead yet. Bright ideas. You can tell Daffy Duck made a great synaptic leap because the artist drew a light bulb above his head. Visual metaphor for aha, eureka, I got it. That's what I want, and want more and more of. Bursts of high energy, waves coursing through the right temporal lobe, every door in the house of my mind flung open. On the angiogram screen seems the grandest of maps. Every injection of dye outlines the 100 more sinuous roads crawling the great continent within. So many possibilities, so many waysides, so many tables set for dinner. On a scale in the autopsy lab, a brain weighs even less than a duck just lifted from the oven. And oh, I can smell it now. Skin crisped and crackled, onions steeped in cream. The dog leaps in from his rambles, carries the deep scent of November into the room. Call the children away from cartoons. For dessert, we'll have plums. Juicy. For dessert, we'll have plums, juicy, sweet, and colder than the poet's plums. It's time. Everyone, come, sit, eat. Am I staying in the 10-minute bracket?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is I'm an old person, I'm turning 80, and I'm glad to have finally, after being mentioned often, or a bunch of times, for a pushcart prize, which I never thought would happen, because I'm not well known. And I finally got one. So I'm gonna read a pushcart prize poem. It's abracadabra. When our mother yelled, "Stop that or I'll box your ears," I thought she meant chop them off and put them in a Roy Tan cigar box. A few years later, a local state fair sideshow magician sawed a pretty older girl right through the middle. We screamed, yet she danced back to us, all smiles and sequins, her breasts bouncing the way I hoped mine would someday, a transformation I prayed for daily. When Mom wrung her hands over her many and various worries, kissing, I'm simply beside myself, I tried to picture that diaphanous other version of our mother, not a ghost, but not all there, like a real body. A magic vapor mother who mimicked her hand wringing, pacing, and contorted faces, always beside her. Years later, when I knew something more about metaphor, she told me, "You've lost your head," when I married him and brought him home. Fast forward to a woman, me, in my bed, decades later, now master of my own arts of appearance and disappearance, and my cold acquaintance with how close one can come to death and still not die. He sleeps, never sees my subterfuge when I grab my head, try by its sturdy helmet skull, give it a good crank to the right, lift it, and set it on the nightstand. Head is a night watchwoman, observant crone. She says she stays alert, enjoys the way moonlight limbs our bodies. His 30 years later, still lean, sinewy, mine bent to my shape, mine slumped, rounded in the pose of a person asleep, but really quite beside herself. And because we're trying to keep this, we have 4 other wonderful writers here, 4 wonderful following writers. We're trying to keep this to a minimum time. I'm going to read Fishwife. It's a prose poem, as you know what they are. And there is food in it. Fishwife. She loves her husband, even though he is a fish. They both had to make a list of adjustments to married life. Her friends and family don't see what she sees in him and seldom come around anymore. He had to leave all his friends and the spacious oceans to be carried around in cans and jars or plopped into the plexiglass tank in their apartment. Still, they're happy. They like to watch TV together or listen to music, but mostly they listen to each other. He tells her of his travels to the primitive black deeps of the ocean and of the beasts which lurk there. He exaggerates, she knows. But she loves a good story, so she pretends to believe what he tells her. She tells him everything. She's a real talker. Of course, they can never have children. But they enjoy many cool baths together. On the whole, they have a pleasant relationship. Only her hunger could change things. Enjoy your meals. Onward.
Kathleen Lynch. It's good to know that the waves are still coursing through the right temporal lobe and the light bulb is on. So our next poet is Victoria Dalkey, poet and longtime art critic for the Sacramento Bee. She's the author of 2 collections, 29 poems from Red Wing Press, and In the Absence of Silver from Rattlesnake Press, as well as a limited edition collaboration with poet Kay Lindsay entitled Map of the Pearl. Victoria has won many awards and accolades both for her poetry and for her work supporting artists and the arts in the Capital Region. I know she's excited to be here. I've been getting emails all week, and we are really happy to welcome Victoria Dalkey. Do you want this chair or not?
sit in
You're
this
good there.
spot
Okay,
because
good.
it's got arms, so I can lift myself out of it.
Okay. So you're gonna sit or stand?
Yeah, I'm gonna sit. That's okay.
That's great.
Because I don't want to fall over. This is great. Wow. My goodness. Let's see. Oh, wait.
You want this up higher?
I don't know yet because I haven't sat down. Let's see.
You don't have to get too close. The picture.
Yeah, it picks it. Oh, okay. And is that a good length?
I think that's good.
Hi. Okay. Well, I like Kathleen. I'm thrilled to be here. I haven't read my poems in probably 2.5 years. So just because of COVID and a lot of other things. So this is quite thrilling for me to be able to read some new things. And I wanted to start out with a poem that I get a lot of rejections, but I did get an acceptance from the Birmingham Poetry Review in Birmingham, Alabama. And I was just thrilled because it's a very good publication. So I'll read you the poem. Let's see, I'm going to have to set this up here. It's called Making Love, I Remember a Dark Wood. As a girl, I folded paper boats, pushed them out on the river. I swam in the park after dark until a star came out. Innocent as the white light shining through runs in the yellowed window shade. Now, making love, I remember a dark wood. A man's suit coat hangs from a crepe myrtle, riffled by breeze. Making love, I remember a dark wood. My lover's hand hovers over my breast, a hawk ready to drop. Through the wood, a hound chases his bitch. I am the hound wanting no voice but my own. I am the bitch, missing one breast, crippled by a tripped knee. I am standing on the doorsill of a dream, a girl again, counting lacquer bowls, red as pips in a fallen magnolia blossom. A cool blue-gray shade settles like fog on a thistle, penetrates its hidden heart. Of the color of artichokes, I love best their cool blue-gray shade, like fog that settles on a thistle that covers its hidden heart. Love peeling the leaves back, tough, thick ones giving way to tender, pale green leaves, curled tighter and tighter inside till you reach the inedible choke with dry as dandelion puffs, rimmed with pale purple petals that stick in your teeth, prick your tongue. Waiting, I remember a dark wood. Making love on a soft bed of needles, gray-green, resinous as Greek retsina or grappa, the color of air, with a man whose eyes are a blue-gray shade, like fog that settles on a thistle, cooling the succulent heart you long to bite. This next poem is called Elegy in the Old City Cemetery for Anne Menebroker, who is a poet some of you may have known. She was a dear friend and a wonderful poet, and she passed away some time ago from liver cancer. So anyway, this is for Annie. A new paradigm for the mind holds, it is like a cloud, vaporous, amorphous, a shape-shifting function of imagination. At the cemetery, we eat brie and ham, drink Chinese oolong in Japanese cups of porcelain clay glazed matte black. We talk of mood rings, mysterious dreams, of dying animals, cops and pilots who see UFOs in the night desert sky. You drop your cup on cement. We see its bone-white insides, a jagged break, unmendable even with gold. For solace, we conjure a puffy white cumulus cloud, the kind children draw over treetops under the sun in a scribbled blue sky. Ask why? If the mind is a cloud we only imagine, do we hold it so close, like a friend who's been given a death sentence? Our breath displaces cold air here in the graveyard, where we picnic in winter, condenses on the steps of a small mausoleum. We press our noses to the milky glass door, like children shut out of their houses on rainy days when no one is home. And this next poem is very new, and I remember when I first started writing poems and reading them, a lot of them were about my grandmother, so I got to be known as the grandmother poet. So I haven't written a grandmother poem in a long time, but this is a grandmother poem, and its title is Plain. Cow tongue, huge, taste buds ready to burst on the back burner. Kidneys, simmered dull gray, stinking like piss. Plain cooking, she called it, from home in Frankfort, Kentucky. Dark deer meat, stewing, the blood tastes gamey, she said. Ringed with parsnip, turnip, rutabaga, steamed and mashed. When she died, the family crowded the doorway of her bedroom. I tried to squeeze between legs, but Mother said, "Go back to bed, Vicky, Grandma's gone." Sunday rabbits, their cat-like bodies fried in lard, ducks peppered with birdshot. We'd probe for with our tongues before biting down. I wanted to bite down, to re-examine the moles on her cheeks, the brown spots on her hands, her yellow corns. Catfish caught with dynamite at Ice Lake, gutted, coated with cornmeal, sizzled in Crisco for friends from Chico. I wanted to see one more time the mouth my mother fed, milk toast, egg custard, while I sat in faint light through cracked Venetian blinds. And this poem is very short, which is good. It's called Child's Play. Afternoon light from cracked Venetian blinds casts striped shadows on red table, snub-nosed scissors. I put a pink polka dot blouse with white Peter Pan collar on a punched out June Allison paper doll. Admire her peaches and cream complexion, perky blonde bob, bangs cut straight over pale blue eyes. I fold tabs firmly back so the blouse stays on and doesn't hang crooked. Cut an ice blue skirt to match her eyes, a yellow handbag to go with her hair. Then I make her walk back and forth over the table, faster and faster. I think she is waiting for Dick Powell to come home, take her in his arms, bury his face in her hair, croon My Blue Heaven in an Irish tenor, promise never to hit her again. Thank you. Too much of that goes on, so. And I'd like to end up with a very short poem. I once was told that I had submitted some poems to an ekphrastic journal. Ekphrastic poems are poems about an artwork. And so I submitted one, and they said, well, it's not an ekphrastic poem. For one thing, it's about more than one artwork, and you can't do that. So I was very, cowed by that. So, but this, I hope this is an ekphrastic poem. I'm not sure it is, but it's called Culex Orange. Culex orange peeled 3/4 down and sitting like an offering on a dark table in low light. Yet it glows. You can smell the pungent peel, admire the soft white pulp, the dome of the translucent fruit, segments separated by tissue that defines the wedges to be pulled apart, and bitten so sweetness floods the mouth. Lord, I now want such an orange, but our teak bowl holds only a pale version that doesn't smell at all. My husband cuts it, and I suck the fruit out of the rind. The juice is not as sweet as I hoped. There is no effervescent mist rising from the peel. No, it can't compare to the orange in Kulik's painting, the orange I deserve.
One more time for Victoria. I wanted to see one more time the mouth my mother fed. Quite a line, wonderful. Our next reader is Mary Zeppa. Singer. Mary is a singer and a lyricist, as well as a poet and literary journalist. She's the author of 2 chapbooks, Little Ship of Blessing and The Battered Bride Overture, as well as a full-length collection, My Body Tells Its Own Story. Zeppa, in collaboration with the Brubeck Institute Jazz Quintet, has been featured at 3 Sacramento Poetry Center jazz and poetry live events. She will be again this year on March 24th at the Sacramento Fine Arts Center in Carmichael on March 24th. I said that. For 20 years, she was 1/5 of the a cappella quintet Cherry Fizz. Please welcome Mary Zeppa.
Is it? Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I've been strongly tempted to sing Let the Good Times Roll, but I'm going to spare you that. This venerable poet is going to read some venerable poems, which means they've all stood the test of personal time. And they all have something to do with, oh, what a surprise, music. So the first one is called The Little Notebooks of Anna Magdalena Bach, a coda. The body, an alien we rent a room in. I don't get this mind-body thing, said the funny man. The brain's in the body the last time I looked. But the brain is merely the furniture to house the abstraction that hungers for saffron, that longs to be Van Gogh's good ear, that cocks that ear, bends it toward her soprano. Anna Magdalena stirs widower Bach, raises the hairs on the back of his neck. I'd be their first baby, warm, wet, and living, who dropped into Bach's waiting hands. Yes, life will come back for us, turning the carriage around, stopping the jet on a dime. Thank you, folks. This one I often think of as my signature poem. People have signature songs. Why can't I have a signature poem? I can. It's called A Living Will. Here, take what's left of sunlight. these shadows on my walls, these yesterdays in corners, these dust-mote reveries. To you, I leave the echoes that crowd around my bones, sonatas, waltzes, low-down blues, and small tunes with no names. I open out a diorama folded from spine, first memory, red metal swing suffused by golden sun. A child swings out to meet the light. A shadow draws her close. The dead are here, beside us, in our voices, in our touch. The music plays us all it knows, the slow laments, the hymns, the intermittent joy, the steady hunger, trapped in bones. Thank you, friends. I have been rediscovering my CD collection, and I found, I didn't realize it had been so long since my husband, Manny, who's now in memory care, and I went to Kenya on a photo safari. It was 18 years. I didn't remember it was that long. But in any event, this is about that time. And it's in 3 parts, and it has an epigraph. The epigraph is this: an African seedling I hid in my suitcase, my pocket, purse under my skin. Dream. An African seedling for Titus Mungai. 1. Raindrops dance your tin roof, my brother. It's your day off. You wake with a smile in your stone house 10 miles from Nairobi on 2 acres your smart father bought. On that slope overlooking a river, 20 contented hens cluck, and Hana's seedlings, carnation, banana, uncoil their shimmering stalks. The rain's rhythm moves up your backbone. Your toes follow, not far behind, tip-tapping under the covers till they've waked Hana, drowsy but game. As you scoop her up out of her last dream, sleep dancer, into your living room, to the window your Maudin beams out of to coax the rain down with her song. 2. We lifted our voices together, Titus, the brother I claim, who loves Dolly Parton and Mariah Carey, and hymns and the rhythm of grace. Titus Kikuyu, who loves Kenny Rogers. The gambler rolled off both our tongues. You gotta know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, know when to run. As we stood side by side in the red dust of Kenya, that melody doubled and firm. Tapped our toes to Kenny's syncopation. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. Sang up the red gleaming sun. 3. And a pillar of fire lit the morning, and the tourists assembled and gazed. Some praised the sky for its own sake, some offered heaven the praise. You did, O Titus, my brother who truly believes. Who's to say? Someday he, great Jehovah, snowy white hand on his shimmering beard, just might slide down a fire-red sunbeam to let you know he approves, to tell you that your lives are pleasing, that he numbers the hairs on their heads, your Teresia, Damaris, James, Morden, and that Hana outshines his own morning star. She is Ruth, Martha, Mary, and sings her own warrior left behind litanies, while for weeks at a time you are gone. While you drive the strangers with cameras down rough, rutted roads in your van, while you spot with your hawk eyes his lions, his leopards, his zebras, his giraffes, wildebeests, elephants, his aardvarks, impalas, hyenas, and sing out like Adam their names. Okay, this is the last one, and it is a song. Some of you may recognize the tune that I have borrowed. It's for my friend Milton Meadows, who died quite a while ago, much too young. And he used to say, repetition is the spice of life. It took me a while to understand what he meant by that, but I think I've got it now. And there's a Yiddish word in the song. It is kvel, which means feel happy and proud. Okay, are you with me? Okay. Repetition is the spice of life. Repetition is the spice of life. Slicing good bread with your favorite knife. Howls of laughter after wails of strife. Kvel while you can be glad. Repetition is a thing we love. Clothes that still fit like a silky glove. Windows that light up without a shove. Kvel while you can be glad. Repetition spices up our days. The familiar in surprising ways. Kisses tangy with good bordelaise. Kvel while you can be glad. Repetition we look forward to. Sauvignon Blanc when the workday's through. Our own doorbell when a good friend's due. Kvel while you can be glad. Repetition like a sweet rebirth. Snapshot of a man suffused with mirth. Who was your father when he walked the earth? Kvel while you can be glad. Kvel while you can be glad.
Thank you so much. Sauvignon Blanc when the day is through. So she's got everybody kvel. I'm not sure if that's the right usage. Kveling. One more time for Mary Zeppa. Oh, okay. Our next reader is Tom Meschery. And Tom was known as the Mad Manchurian for reasons that you may or may not find out later. He was born in Harbin, China, to Russian parents, and he became an NBA All-Star with the San Francisco Warriors in the 1960s. After his basketball career, Meschery studied literature, became a writer and an English teacher, and a bookstore owner. He's published multiple books, most recently Clear Path from Random Lane Press, 2022, which is available here tonight, and a new mystery novel, which is called The Case of the 61 Chevy Impala, and that's available on Amazon. Please welcome Tom Meschery. Okay. No, and you don't have to be too close to the mic, it's pretty hot. Okay. All right.
Too many rebounds and my legs finally gave out, so. I think years ago I was bitten by Robert Browning, and so I tended to write poetry that is narrative in tone, and also very impressed by Frank O'Hara. Frank O'Hara's philosophy was that if you're a poet, you need to write poems that sound as if you're talking to somebody on the telephone. So again, that kind of lends itself to that idea of the narrative. So I sort of followed his dictates. I'm going to read two poems, two from Clear Path. That's a wonderful book that Bob and Joyce put together. They just do a great job. And I'm just thrilled with the way it turned out. Both of these two poems are about sports. And It's what I know very well, and of course there's more to it than that, and I hope you'll understand as I read the poems to you. The first poem has to do with COVID. Everybody's written a COVID poem. This is my COVID poem. It's called Ghosts. Sheltered in place this afternoon, the NBA season canceled. I'm watching reruns of games. It's 1994, Knicks versus Bulls. I'm feeling squeamish as the Bulls' Anthony Mason drives to the basket and scores as if he was alive and hadn't been dead for years from a stroke. It might be the statistics on the news of the numbers of dead rising around the world that has me thinking of NBA ghosts, my teammates. And me as a kid on Halloween trying to be brave, walking through the haunted house, white sheets popping up around every corner. In New York City, they rent refrigerator trucks to store bodies. Yesterday, I watched the Boston Celtics play, and Dennis Johnson died as he crossed midcourt and rose into the air on the wings of angels. I am 81 years old. The virus likes my age. I welcome ghosts into my life, old friends. The next poem is for Bobby, a young guy who used to play. He was a gym rat. We used to play basketball when we were in 8th grade, 7th grade. He never got over the sport. He's still doing it, still alive, still playing basketball. And the poem is for Bobby, and his last name is Randall, so it's for Randall. We always called him Randall. It's worth mentioning that he was small for his age and scurried around the basketball court like a mouse, a pet if we had held him in our hands and gave him comfort. But we often ridiculed him for the little gestures that he made with his fingers on either side of his mouth, where whiskers would appear in our thoughtless imaginations. It is worth mentioning that he carried letters and stood behind the counter of his post office and sent our important missives to their important destinations, all the while keeping faith with those years on the basketball court. Most of us grew fat. Our legs turned to mush, so that we could hardly run, in my case, walk. Bobby won championships shooting hoops, 60s and over, 70s and over, 3-on-3, free throw shooting, HORSE, horse, bringing home medals and trophies. It's worth mentioning that Bobby never forgot a single moment on the court or any player that was worthy of his admiration. His memory brought him joy, and those accomplishments, whether so slight in our youth, in his old age grew larger into a garden of delight. It is worth mentioning that few men his age, what is he now, 80, can sight over the ball, measure the distance to the hoop, and score, as if the distance between his eye and the rim, however difficult, were the measure of the man. It is worth mentioning that we are not so far removed from our youthful venality that we cannot be forgiven, which Bobby has done with every shot he swished the net, because it was the sport we played together, and he guarded us so tightly. I'm married to an artist, Melanie Marchand, and the next two poems have to do with art, and I'm grateful to her for introducing me to art in such a way that I feel like I know something about it. And I'm a theme person. I like to write poems in bunches, and I'm working on a collection of poems about some trips that we took to Europe and studied art and visited museums. And so these two poems are that have to do with art. The title of the book, I think, is going to be called Art Lessons, but I'm not sure. And it's going to be divided into three parts. One part is going to be about graphic drawing in graphite, and another one is going to be drawing watercolor, and then the next one is going to be about paintings that we viewed in museums. And these two are in the paintings that we viewed in the museums section. And the first poem is entitled Fresco. It was Dante, wasn't it? Reluctant to paint his Last Supper in fresco, instead painting it on the hardened plaster in oil that did not withstand time's erosion. What year was that when you stood in front of Jesus and his apostles in Milan's Santa Maria della Grazia and wept? The faces at the supper table barely recognizable. You tell me you flew home and signed up for a class in painting fresco. Which brings us to the present, driving into Willits, California, a small town in the foothills of the mountains of the coastal range, known as the cannabis capital of the state, where in the morning your classes will begin. You are imagining, I think, of fresco and possibly Da Vinci, and a kind of artistic arrogance that cost future art lovers a chance to see the Last Supper without weeping. I'm thinking of a poem I would write while I'm waiting for you to finish your class, entitled Fuzzy Vision While Watching Easy Rider. I'm so lucky to be married. I'm so lucky to be with you. Poems don't come easy to me, and this lesson, which will please you with colors, will please me with words. How often have I heard you tell me, colors are my life, in a voice that says, and don't you forget it. How could I? Watching you paint is like standing in the middle of the color wheel that spins like a merry-go-round until I'm dizzy in love with you, my artist wife. These lessons, although not cheap, will not break the bank, and the hotel is reasonably comfortable. And guess what? In this little town with one main street 3 blocks wrong, there is a restaurant called Le Parisien. You will get up in the morning and I will drive you to your lessons, after which I will find a place for coffee and write on my new laptop about Peter Fonda and motorcycles. And you will be doing what? I will have to wait for your return to find out, but I can already imagine your smile.
Yay.
The next poem is called Pompeii Red. Red of all colors is fugitive, from which arose all the figures of the mysteries from the start of the fresco to the end of the wall in the Villa of Mysteries. You were there staring amazed, a semester abroad found you in Pompeii. It is your story. I was years away from entering. Now you tell me there is no other red like it, or if there is, it is still where the artist hid it after they finished. Perhaps you say, the color will be rediscovered in the future, in nature, coloring an as yet an unknown species of flower in the Amazon or hidden under a dry riverbed in Arizona. Or wherever there is a mystery to be solved, such a red will surface, perhaps today in a small town in California, which I explain might appear in your fresco, the one you will attempt to paint today that you had stored in your memory and forgotten. Suddenly remembering as you mix your paints where you put it. And I can tell how pleased you are with the possibility that it would be you to find Pompeii red, where it has been hiding from artists all these years. That the color you loved so much loved you back.
Yes.
Thank you. That's it. Good. Go Warriors, go Kings.
Such a red will surface. It reminds me of Victoria's orange.
Yes.
Great job.
All right. One more time for Tom Meschery. How's the food? So that's our chef over there is Kai.
Yay!
Thank you so much. We have one more feature poet, and then we have a list of open mic, and we're going to just move right on through. So our final feature reader. Our final feature reader of the night is Kathryn Hohlwein. Kathryn was born in Salt Lake City, and she studied with Robert Frost at Breadloaf in 1953. She traveled in Europe and the Middle East, married a German artist, and had 3 children. And in 1963, she became a professor at Sac State, CSU Sacramento, teaching poetry, world literature, and the Homeric imagination. Kathryn founded the International Readers of Homer, which has presented events all over the world. You might pencil in May 13th of this year at Grace Cathedral in San Francisco.
Yes.
There's going to be a reading of the Iliad, and Kathryn and a group of us are working together to plan that. So if anybody's interested, come see me or her afterwards. May 13th. It's a Saturday, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. It's only half a day. It's not even 24 hours. I mean. So Kathryn continues to travel and write. Her book came out a couple years ago. This is collected poems, A Little Chapel in Donegal. Wonderful book. It's really a pleasure to put it together and an honor to do that. Please welcome Kathryn Hohlwein. Stand, okay? You can stand. You want a music stand for the book?
That might help, yes.
Okay.
Hello, people. Hi. This is great. Oh, thank you. I think you can hear me. Yes. Oh, what a lovely place to be, great food. I'm thrilled to be in any environment in which Joe Gilman can play. Oh boy, if you haven't heard him play, make an effort please. He's a genius. And because of that, and because of the food, and because of the collection of poets reading, I of course ruminated in my mind what are the themes of the night, and they're food, poetry, and music. Kathleen kind of did the food thing. I only have one on pomegranate, city planning of a pomegranate. I like the poem, but I'm not going to read it because the pomegranate season is ending. And the food is taken care of. So I am concentrating on words and music. I have no idea which of those two arts influenced me the most over my life. I think music probably even more than words, because words, as Eliot said, are slippery. And music is endlessly helpful. I will be here for Joe Gilman's concerts, and I hope you come too. I hope it's not presumptuous. I want to dedicate my little portion of this collective reading to my mother, who was a really fine pianist, and it's her birthday, so I thought I'm going to do that. So, happy birthday. I'm nearly blind. I'm 92, so I'm not sure I can even see what I'm going to read, but I'll try. I've got a good flashlight.
Oh, you have a flashlight?
I have a great flashlight. No, I have a great
Hold
look.
it if you want.
And so I will do that. I think it's because of teaching so long that I am so used to standing where I talk. Well, I don't know where I'm going to begin. I want to begin by, don't go. I want to begin by thanking my fellow friends and poets, Kathleen. Oh, yay. I love you. Yeah, I love you too. And Mary, Zeppa, Victoria. And it's just such a very big thrill to be sharing this with you. And I'm glad to meet you, Tom. Although I am about the opposite of O'Hara. So you have to kind of put up with my kind of academic language, I'm afraid. I will start, because of the themes of the evening, I want to talk about words and music, and I have an old poem, and of course, all of my poems are old poems, because they would be, wouldn't they, at 92? And but this is, it says number 1 on this.
Okay. I can find it.
Okay.
Number 1.
And it's an old poem, many of you probably heard of it. And it refers to both words and music. Words of Sappho, the quintessential woman poet who has school for girls in ancient Greece and taught them how to write and think. And she had wrote about the Pleiades, was very lonely, and is a lovely poet. We have her only in fragments, as you can imagine. The other one is that I come up with a bizarre notion that maybe Sappho would have liked to have listened to Bruckner. Well, I mean, yes. Wouldn't we like to know, listen, bring our own sensibilities to other cultures and other composers? So this is called Words, Music, Silence in the Rest. You want to know how Sappho would have taken to Bruckner, what light she might have seen shining through the tympanum, and if perhaps leaning loose
into the doorway of her chamber, her school, her thought, she would have decided for music or have hedged, saying words were music. From Vienna, Bruckner takes over your doorways, your house. Inside your silence, language keeps on drifting down the blood as fingers lifting notes from dark bassoons, as hands still arching over cellos. The language drifts in movements, moves upon itself, rests within itself. The gathering of words in silence, the giving of music in rest. Stillness drifting towards us and from us. Your eyes encountering Sappho's, your heart beating with Bruckner's. Okay, number 2. Thank you, Bob. And many thanks to Bob, Stanley, and Joyce for this evening. And my own personal immense gratitude for the precision of the work they have been doing and that they did on my book. I loved it, and I thank you. And I just throw in a note about the Readers of Homer. Should you think this sounds interesting, then you can go to the website of the International Readers of Homer and see if it does interest you to go to Grace Cathedral on Nob Hill in San Francisco. Gorgeous acoustics, beautiful people reading, all ages, all languages, all types of people, not poets, not scholars, not Homer lovers, not even poetry lovers, but just people, and they read a given 35 lines or so that we give out to them and stand up there and pronounce this ancient text, and they love it. It's a wonderful experience. I'm grateful. If you should be interested, kindly put your name and email on a slip of paper and give it to Bob or to me before you leave. It's really kind of a thrill, for me at least.
Totally.
Okay. I am, as I said, I'm interested in deep time. I'm interested passionately in the great expanse of time, and I'm trying to write a book about a kind of proto-artist, Neanderthal mother, singer, artistic temperament type who kind of alienates her tribe because she's so kind of odd, but she is kind of odd, as we all fancy ourselves to be. And I like this poem, and it's called In Deep Time. In deep time, I hear a mother singing to the crying baby cradled in her arms. Hollow as an oboe, hollow as a cave, her open mouth a cavern of given tenderness. She sits in a shadowed corner. I cannot see her face. Over the dry savanna, over the dreaded forest, her precious vowels, oh and ah, float on the easy air. And we know that this is true, for love preceded language, and song preceded statement. Wonder preceded prophet, and grief preceded tools. In deep time, I hear a mother singing to the sleeping child, now curled in her arms. What is it? Let me see what's on. Oh, no, I'm not getting that. It says number 3. Okay, you're all right. This is a kind of new poem insofar as if you're 92 as I am, anything is new. It's all my poems are old. Okay, this is called In My Driveway, but I kind of like the way it ends. I wonder if I could convince you that a snail's tracks made me think of Bach's well-tempered clavichord. Would you believe me when I assert that they weren't there last night, but completely there this morning? That their little smear steps were stitched across the driveway as if a consummate seamstress had put them precisely there, so good she could sew on concrete. Their steady, even purpose had a trail of clarity, even of meaningfulness, in the partly translucent intention. Tiny, perfect rectangles seemed like pure lucidity. I marvel at the application of miniature perfections, at one after the other, evenly spaced like beads on a string, particulates in a wave. I don't know where they would take us, these undulating patterns, but I'm sure they're not forlorn, nor do they seem like nowhere. They go where I can't follow precise inscribed notations. Oh, rosaries of joy underneath the rosaries of joy underneath the engine, and each one has a certitude like faith. I thought I'd read a kind of political poem. It's called Without Images. It's in the beginning, I think. It's it's not exactly a COVID poem. It's written a long time ago, but it's still so darn unfortunately apt. A poem without images. I no longer want the truth. If I had it, it might incline me to pass judgment on how you wash your feet or how you prepare for sleep. And once I dislike how you sleep, I will surely dislike how you dream, especially if you twitch in your dreaming, especially if you value your dream. Your dream is defined now heretical. And my truth demands it be stopped. I will not tolerate these images dark in your nighttime soul. So in fairness, I put you on trial, and I can because I'm rich. The trial is rigged by my truth, which insists that it's objective, but likes me much better than you, by God. Your dream is apparently illegal, ill-got, and ill-conceived, and after due consideration, it's out. Your bath, your feet, your sleep, your twitch, your dream, your once in a lifetime you. I forgot what. Oh dear, thank you, how do you know? Yes, this one I love the ending of, so I like the ending. Dear poem, this is for us who write. Dear poem, I thank you for your insouciance, your weird, unnerving aptitude to say the unprepared for. You're the best thing in my life. And though I walk right past you, and though I vacuum past you, you have my real respect. Not only, right? No, it's okay. I know you don't believe this, scattered as you are in notebooks, abandoned among the bills, but you're what I think of when dreaming. You stand there without expression, patient and never the same. You're indifferent if I feel trespassed, and you endure me if I'm scared. You're like that tree, the giant elm equivalent to my skyline that I needed back then as a child to lean my forehead against, calmed by its cellular truth. I'm ending with one from another book with a pen. It's a poem. Laura, my daughter, who couldn't come, she said, asked me a question, I answered it, kind of a prompt. And her question was the following: does God ever get tired of moving in mysterious ways? Great question. I think he does not. He does get bored by our conviction of his mysterious ways and finds it transparent and dull. He thinks that we make up mysteries and assign them to his caprice, but observes that our many connivings, our unscrupulous manifold intrigues, just create clever conditions for what we then call mysteries. On the other hand, he does feel dazzled and dazed by real mysteries beyond his control, the warp and weft of magnetic waves, the weird threads holding the scenery, the breadth of the universes. Sometimes he looks down upon us and finds us sort of darling. But that's about the whole story. Of course, that's just what we long for. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Whoops.